YouTube, how are we doing today? We are back for another session. Today we have upper push-pull, so a little bit of a switch up in terms of where I've been at in my splits recently. So I've actually gone to 5 days a week right now, just to kind of switch it up, give myself a little bit more recovery, as I got a couple of different projects going on, but also to change up the session formats. Typically I run 3-day splits. I've done that for quite a while, but I'm actually seeing if this split can be more optimal for me. So testing something out, and it's a Friday, so we have a nice little flex Friday session. Who doesn't want to get an upper body push pull and a little pump going on a Friday? I've never met a person who doesn't want to have their muscles pumped up for a Friday, whether you're staying in or going out. So that's why we got this session planned for today, and then we'll follow that tomorrow with some legs. So that's going to be the fun little adventure that we've got. But hopefully you've been tuning in so far and you're with me on this journey. We're actually, I believe, 20 weeks out right now, so coming up to 19 weeks out. So it's going to be fun. We've got a little bit of time. And the one thing I want to talk about is I actually did post a little physique photo on TikTok, and well, actually it was a video, and I was actually really surprised by how many people were very complimentary to the physique, like to the kind of progress that I've made, and also kind of some people gave me some good little tips and things like that. And that's what we want the gym community to be like. We want positivity, we want good energy. Like, I know that I am nowhere near show ready in terms of today's date, in terms of conditioning, in terms of muscle mass, everything else like that. And the thing is, some people will kind of shit on that and be like, like, your physique's mid, who cares, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I was being a little bit harsh on myself, I don't know. But I feel like there's a lot of appreciation that came on TikTok with different people, so I really appreciate the engagement on the post for anybody who has followed over from there and is watching this. And the other thing I actually do want to talk about as we're kind of prepping to go to the gym here is somebody talk me through why people think that the eccentric action, the eccentric muscle action, and that eccentric contraction, if we want to think of it as that, isn't important for hypertrophy, like muscle growth. Why have we got this kind of like crowd that believes concentric only is the only way to build muscle? And then there are some prominent scientists out there, I'm probably not going to name names because the person who it is blocked me after me asking them a very simple question, which means either one, they just don't respect that I have any scientific integrity at all, or two, they don't want to engage in some healthy scientific debate because they know that the stance isn't that great. But basically, a popular scientist out there put out a post saying that in normal training, you're not going to get any stimulation of hypertrophy in eccentric action. So essentially, no point in doing it. Don't focus on it. Save your energy. Do more concentrically. And there's kind of like a little truth in there, right? Like, there is some truth to like, hey, you can build muscle concentrically. But the thing is, if we make statements like that, we've got to then back it up and reinforce it, rather than just saying, well, it's just math and theory and there's some kind of physiological underlying principles for this, right? Like, there was no evidence to actually suggest this. And when we actually do training studies and we compare eccentric, concentric contractions with each other, but also when combined, it seems that having that eccentric there is going to stimulate more growth. There are studies that demonstrate that concentric is slightly more favorable, and there are studies that show that eccentric is slightly more favorable. So what we kind of know is that like training muscle contraction type doesn't probably make too much of a difference. So we're kind of clutching at straws in a sense. So that's the thing that's kind of got me a little riled up at the moment, is that like there's this thought process and absolute thinking of that eccentric training can't make you get muscle growth, and that obviously would be wrong, right? Because the other side of things, we could then cherry pick some studies and say, well, eccentric is better based on this elbow flexor study that I've just read, published in 2022, so therefore eccentric training is better for growing the biceps. And the thing is, we're also now we're looking at a different kind of set extension technique, which is then the lengthen partial. And obviously the lengthen partial focuses on primarily that lengthened position and that eccentric control and that eccentric action. So if lengthen partials also stimulate growth, but the eccentric contraction isn't important for muscle hypertrophy, then why is that the case? It wouldn't make sense, right? Physiologically, it wouldn't make sense. And people are making the arguments, well, you need to do eccentric overload and it needs to be super maximal compared to your concentric phase. And the thing is, people are kind of getting confused what the principle of overload is. And so, yeah, accentuated eccentrics, that is doing a, say, 100% or 120% of your concentric 1RM in an eccentric rep will probably stimulate muscle growth eccentrically and probably more so efficiently than doing like a slightly controlled rep. But we've kind of gone a little bit too crazy because we do show that between kind of 2 and 8 seconds in a lowering phase will be effective enough to stimulate muscle growth. Whether that recruits 100% of the fibers, definitely not. I'm not sure where we arbitrarily got the 50% from in terms of this arithmetic and math. But the other thing is, what I will leave people with a question, and you can let me know in the comments whether you have the answer or not, is when a muscle does a contraction and certain fibers are contracting concentrically, what about the other end of the muscle that potentially is lengthening? So some dynamic exercises, one part distal portion might be shortening, whereas the proximal portion might be lengthening. So part of the muscle is undergoing an eccentric contraction, whereas the other part of the muscle might be undergoing a concentric contraction. So the thing is, that's where action and contraction are kind of a bit of a confusing thing. And so I don't think that it's harmful at all to have eccentric focus in there. I think that it's going to be maybe actually a little bit better than concentric training overall, especially in more advanced individuals, because more advanced individuals are generally a little bit less susceptible to muscle damage. Anyway, that was a super big rant. It's gone on for a little while. We're almost at the gym, so we can continue some of this discussion between sets and the rest periods, because we like to do a little bit of science-informed stuff during the training as well. So we'll see you in the gym. So we made it to the gym, which is always the best start, and we're going to start off with just a little assisted dip. So I'd like to get a little bit of chest opener on this one. As you already know, my general warm-up theme is to basically get a deep stretch. We do something that is kind of lower threshold, and then we can kind of build up into it. And so I generally just use the little assisted dip machine just to get some control in these deeper stretches. So then when we do some weighted dips, our shoulders feel a little bit better. So do 1 or 2 sets on these typically, and then what I'd like to do is then go into the more like loaded condition. You'll notice that it's slow, it's controlled. I kind of do a little switch up and do a second set where we hit a little faster. So we don't need to take too much rest between this, just enough to kind of catch our breath. And we leave a bunch of reps on the tank as well. So now we just got to transition over to the weighted dip station. All right, quick set of body weight. remember, we're still warming up right now, so get our weighted belt out. All right, so first set, nice little bit of control, 5 reps, nothing crazy. Again, we're just using this as a primer. Not trying to go to failure just right now. Ooh. All right, a little question for everybody watching. Are we obsessed now with fly variations for chest that we're forgetting all kind of push variations? Because the reason why I asked that question is, someone tell me how that isn't a chest exercise right there, and an effective chest exercise at that. Ooh. Okay, a little rest on this one. We're gonna do one more ad, and then we're into our next exercise. So that was warm-up number 1 done, and we focused a little bit more on the stretch and the push there. Now, this technically is our first working exercise, but I'm still keeping it in what I would classify as the warm-up block, just because we're getting a big deep stretch in the chest. And actually, my next primary exercise is going to be back, because we are doing push-pull split. So I'm just going to double check what weight I'm supposed to be at. But again, you can start the session with this one. What I'm actually going to be focusing on is more of the squeeze with this than the stretch. Still going to be a bit of stretch there, as always. And I think the arguments online, going off that rant about the eccentric phase and stuff that we had in the car, the arguments online is, well, actually, the stretch could still be important, right? So we're going to hit 80 and then go into a fairly high volume rep range here. Alright, so again, people are going to argue, should you control the eccentric? Should you not control the eccentric? I'm still going to say we should have some control. Shouldn't just be a free fall, shouldn't just kind of pull you back and kind of overspeed from the cable stack. So have a little bit of control. That way, whatever muscle recruitment that we theorize to have within the eccentric phase, at least we're trying to maximize it there. Now, do we need 8-second, 10-second tempo? Absolutely not. Do we even need a 4-second tempo? Probably not. 1 to 2 seconds, maybe 3 if you're trying to be super strict. But at the end of the day, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's the best way in terms of muscle growth, but I'm definitely going to tell you that it is an effective way for muscle growth. And however you want to argue the effectiveness, the amount, then that's a different story. But again, we're not talking very, very large effect sizes here. We're talking kind of small, maybe even very small effect sizes, which is the most of training anyway. So again, let's not get all too hung up on this, but get some stretch in there, get some squeeze in there, eccentrics, concentrics. You're going to be on the right path. Like, we're overcomplicating training nowadays, and it actually kind of, even being a PhD and being a science-based lifter, it's starting to actually get annoying. Like, where is the fun of training? I know people kind of use this as an excuse, but yo, let's not overcomplicate these things. If you have a push pattern and you have a pull pattern, vertical, horizontal, you work different length tension relationships, you're going to be well on your way to making gym gains. A lot of people aren't advanced enough to even start worrying about whether the eccentric is the effective or non-effective thing within their session. So once you're there, then do that study. Get it in the most advanced elite bodybuilders and go from there. Alright, into one of our main exercises. So this might be the most science-based setup that you see me do within my own lifts, because generally speaking, I don't like to go and do too much extra, but this one I've found to actually not only feel more comfortable, but also feel like I'm getting more work in, especially in a longer position. So first set with this, I don't typically do any partials to failure. I normally do that for the last set. And what we'll notice on this day is I don't actually do as many sets as my upper lower days. So one other thing that I ended up getting into a bit of a discussion with over on TikTok was grip. And basically I made a statement about grip not being the limiting factor for a lot of movements, and where I do think they are a limiting factor is primarily horizontal pulls. I don't think it's a limiting factor for things like lateral raises, bicep curls, tricep pushdowns, those type of things. Do we want to maybe leverage and isolate muscle force by taking grip out of it in those exercises using cuffs? Yeah, sure. But we've also got to remember about the voluntary muscle contractions that we get and remote voluntary muscle contractions we get from squeezing something. And that's why you'll see people squeezing V handles and things online when they're doing some of these other exercises. But obviously, when it comes to a row, we're already squeezing in a sense. So nothing wrong with using straps, nothing wrong with using grips, because definitely on horizontal rows, it's going to be your grip strength that fails, generally speaking, before your back fails. Now, someone made a point, if your grip doesn't fail and your back does first, your back is just weak. Maybe that's true, or maybe you just have insane grip. Again, the forearm muscles and stuff like that, let's not forget that it's not only muscle in there, but also connective tissue, tendons in our hands, ligaments and things like that. They're also conducting forces, especially isometrically in the grip. So don't rule out grip strength as being just a limiting factor and saying that your back is weak. Actually, your back could be really, really strong, and your grip could be even more so. Think about rock climbers, for example. They're probably going to have way greater grip strength than potentially back strength, and they could probably smack out a lot of pull-ups, but I bet you after them pull-ups they could hang and dead hang there for a long time. So let's not say that grip is the only limiting factor within stuff like pulling. But that was enough talking. Hit our second set here. And in amongst all my talking, I forgot my golden rule, which is always start your training with your weaker side. And my weaker side is the left side. So I broke that rule again. I think it happened the other day too. Maybe I'm just getting nervous because the camera's on me. Alright, I'm just gonna catch our breath because the last thing I want is fatigue being the thing that limits, especially the weaker side. Pause there. Hit this last set. And that, my friends, is fatigue right there. Alright, we got some nice chest coming up. We don't have a free Smith machine, so instead we're going to incline bench press instead. Not quite what was on the plan today. Honestly, I haven't incline bench for a little while, so I don't even really know what my numbers would be at right now. But we'll just do 185, gauge it, and then we can always add a set if needed. We took a little bit more rest than needed today, seeing as someone decided to message me. So I was by the isolateral press, so figured throw it in here, because why not, as an extra exercise. Again, people using the Smiths, I had Smith machine shoulder press, programmed, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to hit that. So we improv, which is the beauty of being your own coach, is you kind of know what to throw in for your program. So look at this. I didn't really have a plan for this, so we're just going to take a quarter off. Little rest, pause, drop set. I'll take a couple of seconds of rest. The thing that makes me laugh right now is all of these younger lifters maxing out machines, stuff like that. I respect it, but the thing is, let's do some work capacity stuff as well, you know what I mean? Like, get to exposure to some higher rep ranges, get some cardio, so to speak. Because it's all good and well putting full plates on this and getting 2 reps and going, oh, that's an effective set. But we all know it's sets, weekly sets amount. That is the kicker. One more. So why not take full rest and just stay up at the top end of the intensity? Honestly, I just like a little bit of variation. I don't want to cook my central nervous system to the point of I'm only lifting heavy with no volume. And you might be like, well, the metabolic fatigue, that's also hitting your central nervous system. But I just kind of like the feeling. Again, I'm not going to say that this isn't effective. I'm not going to say that it's the most effective. So I think we've become obsessed with optimal training. But I actually just like to feel stuff. Alright, let's see what we got next. Now into our vertical pull section, which means we get the weighted belt back out and we're hitting some pull-ups. Should have a nice little weight set up over here for me. Just got a nice 2 little sets to failure, going neutral grip. Alright, I'm going to respect the rest on this exercise. Take a full 2 minutes before going into the next one. And could we maybe go a little bit heavier? I want to stay within the 6 to 8 range. So that's kind of where we're at for today. Make sure we're always hydrating. we'll take the rest just to fill out the program as well. Oh. There we go. Alright. Not sure why. Actually, I'm in the wrong load today. I do need to add, although I did only get 6. So maybe I'll stay where I'm at for today. So these are the kind of exercises where it's a nice little gauge of where you're at strength-wise, because if you hit more reps, it means your back's getting stronger. One more there. All right. I think I'm gonna throw in one more set. Feeling okay. Feeling fine. Last set of this exercise. Last set, best set. See, case in point, grip is not the limiting factor in that exercise, at least not for me. Got a few little fly variations that I like to throw in at this point in the session. So, I want a little higher volume pec deck. We just hit one set here, and we go into some cable flies. So at this point in the workout, I like to just do some variations in my flies. So we hit that pec deck fly, which is kind of more of a mid-fly position, and then hit the small low to high fly. And then we hit a high to low fly. The last one of this, a little high to low fly, emphasizing that squeeze in the bottom. Let's check what we got left. It's time to get the cuff out. And you might have seen that I've talked about the cuff before, and I'll typically use it in a couple of exercises. And whether you need it or not is a different story. But it's in my
nice little strap. Has this strap that I can hold on to, but also, if I really wanted to, I could hold a D handle. So you can grab this and hold that there as well. So you're getting all of the remote voluntary contraction of the forearms with the benefits of not having to hold the cuff. So hit, I think 40. I did start on my left side. This is going to be too easy. You'll notice I'm letting the arm go across the body, which when we look at the research studies that have looked at these lateral raises, typically they're strict at when the hand comes back in line with the shoulder, instead of allowing that last little bit range of motion. Now, this is not an original concept of mine. Stole it from Jeff Nippert. Now, we just did a set there with the cuff, right? And so, for our second set, to see if grip is the limiting factor, I'm gonna do it with a D handle only. So, we'll find out. Now, you might be like, oh, it's fatigue, but that's fine. So, all right, I got 9, I think. All right, we'll have to watch the footage back and count the reps. But there's 6 for sure. Again, even under fatigue, still getting a very similar rep range, even with the grip. So is grip truly the limiting factor here? Are we really gonna be saying that motor unit recruitment didn't target the shoulders there, targeted the forearms more? I don't think so. And what's wrong with having big forearms anyway? Mine are small, if I'm being honest. We're almost there. Almost finished. I'm gonna hit a few little calsos. Throwing some kelsos on this one. So we obviously have the T-bar row on our other day, on our back focus day. So now we get some primary load to an area that we don't typically work as much. So we hit that little kelso shrug, and then that kind of completes our upper body push-pull in terms of chest and back and shoulders. And then we're going to finish off with a little bit of arms. Now, there's a bit of contention actually on the arms, whether you should have arm day, how you pair it in your days. Typically, what I'm doing if I'm hitting arms, I'm normally on this day hitting 2 triceps, 1 bicep, because although it's seen as the triceps are being a bigger muscle group and therefore there's a thought process that they fatigue easier and recover slower, actually from what we know in the researchers, it seems to be the biceps that take that little bit longer to recover. So although biceps are a bit of a focus for me, because we've hit them more recently, I'm only going to do one bicep exercise and hit 2 tricep exercises to finish off this session. So. Alright, we just hit 2 sets of these. We're going to tricep, bicep, tricep, and then we're out of here. So, first tricep finisher should be a familiar one for us, and that is the overhead extension. So we're just going to hit 1 set to failure here. Oh, too easy. And then we'll hit our bicep movement. We got a single arm face away curl. I'm just going to hit 1 set to failure on this one. Oh. Oh, those never get old. All right. What are we doing now? Last tricep. You're gonna be like, oh, this is suboptimal. But we're going push downs. Honestly, I like to do them. I like the feeling. And I don't care if it's not as good as maybe the overhead position or a cable kickback. I just like throwing them in as my last exercise. Although I have to put the weight back. Alright, that's our upper day done. See you in the car. Alright, so just like that, we are done with the session. You'll notice quite a lot of exercise variety in that one. We do a lot of different positions. We got vertical pushes, vertical pulls, horizontal pushes, horizontal pulls, some flies, some arms. And that's for me what a good, well-rounded session looks like. So in terms of exercise selection, you can really vary it up quite a lot with what you decide to choose. They're some of my favorites of what I think are like the most effective exercises to put in that program. Also slightly different variations to what we have on our kind of more chest focused and back focused days earlier in the week. So could we do it other ways? Absolutely. Could you program it as a total body exercise and go full body every other day? Potentially. I just don't like that split, if I'm being honest. I feel like too much rest, not enough exercise exposure in one session. If I do get a lot of exercise exposure, I'm in the gym for 2 hours, so I just like to have them on different days. And the other side of it is, quite honestly, one of the goals right now, speaking to a few different people online and the coach that I'm working with from a bodybuilding perspective, is I don't really need to grow my legs that much right now. Like, in terms of proportions, my legs are way more overdeveloped, even though I personally think that they're not that developed at all, than my upper body is. So in terms of priorities, full body every other day doesn't make sense to me, because they're not my priorities, they're not my weak points. The upper body is. So getting that higher frequency of upper body in there is more important than getting it in with the lower body. Now, you might be like, well, Craig, you've got leg day tomorrow, so actually you're only getting 3 upper body days and 2 leg days. Like, the proportions are not quite like that. But what I haven't been recording, some little secret sessions, some PM sessions. So on my leg days, I'm currently working on certain weak points. So doing some extra shoulders, doing some extra back, doing some extra tricep, doing some extra bicep. So I'm still getting a little bit more exposure and frequency of sets of those upper body muscles. And the other thing you also probably have noticed is I haven't done any real abs, where, again, sneaking those into my PM sessions. So I'll probably record one of the PM sessions at some point. I generally haven't recorded them yet just because they're pretty quick and I'm just kind of in and out, so I don't really want to mess around with recording and stuff like that. But I'll get one of those done for you probably tomorrow if I have the chance and I remember. So hold me to it in the comments. If I don't, I'll make sure that I do get one, because there is a little secret on those PM sessions as well, so I don't want to reveal it just yet, as it's too early in the day to do that. But hopefully you enjoy these sessions so far. Obviously, this is my first week of documenting my prep journey, my competition prep journey. It's a new experience for me. Posting on YouTube is also a new experience for me. So I'm hoping that people are getting value out of this. And if you're not, let me know in the comments why not, because I can tailor these videos to be more informative, less informative, longer, shorter. So tell me what you want. Tell me what you like. So with that in mind, we're obviously getting to the end of this one. Make sure you've tapped into the other videos and keep posted, because I will be posting other content that's not necessarily in the gym, but it'll be gym and fitness related. Starting to put this PhD brain to good use in terms of educating the masses. So YouTube University will be in session soon. So make sure you stay peeled for that by hitting the subscribe button and hitting the notification button. So every time that I post a video, you'll get that notification. And also make sure you like the video as well, because that helps with exposure and that helps with this channel. Please help me grow it, because as much as I just want this to be documenting prep, I do want to grow the channel. I want to grow a community, because I think that I can bring value to everybody. So with that in mind, make sure you follow me on the socials as well, at CT Sports Science. You can find me everywhere, and we'll see you in tomorrow's leg day session. Peace.